Hi, Migrants with Migraines. This is your host, Itzel, and welcome to this special episode for Valentine's Day, Migrants with Heartbreaks. So today's episode, we are going to get into relationships for Valentine's Day. So basically what we want to talk about today is how your guys' experience have been having relationships outside of your own cultures versus within, and what that looks like, the differences between those. And this can include whether it is like romantic or, those really deep friendships that you have with people, getting involved with their families and stuff like that. And the kind of like expectations that you've almost set on yourself as well, and what that looks like. So we can start with Allie. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Ali Lopez. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I'm a part of the Instagram team, and I'm really excited to be a part of the podcast team. I feel like it's like a crossover, so yay, I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you. It's nice to see like the Instagram team get a little involved with the podcast, especially as a guest. So again, we're excited to have you. How about you, Jalen?
Hi, my name is Jalen Ortega Canseco, like two last names. But my pronouns are she, her, ella, and I'm actually a master's in social work student at Allies in Caring, and I'm also Mexican American, and I'm here because I met Itzel through we work in the same agency, and yeah, I guess I'm really excited to be here too.
All right, so let's get started and dig a little deeper into this main question that we have. So we want to hear about what you guys' experience have been with, dealing with these different types of relationships within your own cultures, or if you've even gone outside of your own cultures, because I know especially as children of migrants or migrants ourselves, we have our certain comfort level of whether there is a certain comfort level of staying within your own culture because you have these certain type of expectations already. You kind of know what you're going into, as opposed to going into this completely whole new world and going into something that's completely different from your own culture. You feel this type of pressure to learn, if it's a different language, what are their customs, their norms, because even myself, I start getting nervous because I'm if for example, myself, I'm very comfortable in my own culture. I'm dating a guy that's also Mexican. All my friends are Mexican. And I think it was just kind of how I was brought up. In my town, you're either white or you're Hispanic. So I'm kind of very used to my own little bubble. Unfortunately, I haven't dealt with much other than that. So I really want to hear about your guys' experience. I'm sure you guys have a lot more to tell than I do. So
okay, so actually, I'm from Violin, which is actually it's a big town, but there's actually a lot of diversity there. But yeah. Growing up, I actually, to be honest, I only ever been in one serious relationship my whole life, and I think that also has to, that has to be because of my own culture, how I was raised. It was just if you're gonna get in a relationship, it's gonna be serious. And
yeah, your last relationship.
Yeah, I guess you grow up seeing that within my culture. You see, I'm pretty much your own family. Well, for me, I don't know about Ali, I don't know about, if Itzel, but my cousins, I have older cousins, and they got married young, and it's just
a pressure when you see your own family, they get married so young and babies so young.
Yes.
And I'm pushing 24 now. I'm getting asked those questions, when are you gonna have a baby? Do you plan on getting married? I'm I don't know.
Yeah, weird. Exactly. It's just that pressure, like you said.
So I want to hear from you, Allie.
Well, currently, I'm in a relationship with my partner, and she is like my my literal only relationship I will put on paper. Like if there was like a relationship resume,
Count.
everybody else did not exist. I'm not playing those games. No, because you know I came from like a pretty different like family when it comes to like relationships. The only thing that both of my sides of my family could agree on is that I would not date until I was out of high school. That was pretty much the consensus the entire time I was.
And did you?
Yeah, I'm scared of my family. I would never, especially my Dominican half. I was not playing those games. I would not date behind like their back. I'm not even entertaining the thought of dating because my Mexican side was always like, oh, well, if you wait, like it'll be, you know, easier for you because, you know, you're in high school. You don't really know who you are just yet. My Dominican side was like, if you wait, I will get you a car. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh my God. I did not have those incentives.
Yeah, seriously. Like, I wish I had that. Yeah. I guess, like, I got into a really serious relationship, like, at the age of 14. I had no clue what I was doing. I just thought it was fun, I guess, in my mind. And then, I guess, and, like, my mom was very, very, like, strict on that. Like, oh, like, you have a boyfriend? Like, oh, so who is he? And then, like, you know, really started digging into that, and she's like, oh, like, are you gonna marry him and stuff like that? Like, asking me questions, like, whoa, like, it's just, like, you know, a boyfriend, like, it's nothing serious, but then you do get that feeling, like, okay, now I have to, this is a big step, like, you know, it's really serious, and after that, I just stayed with that one person, and I feel like within that pressure of, I guess, my own culture, like, if I leave this relationship, like, I feel like, I guess I'm not good at relationships or just not, like, you know, I'm doing something wrong, you know, like, I just see everybody staying, I grew up seeing, like, everybody staying in that same relationship.
Because we have this pressure to, you know, stay with that person. Like your first boyfriend is the one you're going to marry and stuff like that. You feel pressure to stay even if, like, you're being treated badly. Or, like, you know, there's going to be another episode, but, like, machismo, like, dealing with that. And, like, because that's so normalized and, like, you're almost in a way kind of degraded, like, as a woman because you have these higher expectations. Oh, like, you know, if she leaves, like, her longtime boyfriend, what is she going to do afterwards? Like, what is she going to do for herself? And, like, almost in a sense, like, women are kind of, like, pressured to kind of be that typical, like, stereotype, like, housewife and stuff like that. And, like, if you fall into that narrative and, like, stick with that, what are you going to do when, you know, you leave your man or, like, your man leaves you? Like, you know, like, there's a sense of, like, dependency almost on this person. And that's why I encourage women, just be your own self.
Yeah.
You gotta do. Go get your money. Go get your education.
I wish I heard that when I was, like, younger. You know, like, the people around me, like, all they did was, like, serve the man. Like, if the relationship's not good, yes, like, it's.
Oh, that gives me coraje. I hate that.
Yeah, like, if you're not, if it's not working out, it's because of you. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that you're not doing right. Then why is he not happy?
And that's what, like, again, that gives me so much coraje. That's why, like, I low-key, like, when me and, like, my man are, like, at parties and stuff like that, I will not serve him. Like, I will not, like, I'll be damned if I have, like, somebody see me serving my man. I'm like, I don't know why, like, that, I'm not here to serve you. We're, like, even in this, you know what I mean? Like, I sometimes, like, you know, people say, like, oh, it should be 50-50, and I'm like, I'm at 100 and 100, like, we're both up here, you know what I mean? So I'll have him serve me sometimes. Speaking of your relationship, Jalen, did you stay within your own culture?
So no, actually, I dated somebody out of my culture. He was Dominican, and Yeah, yeah.
Period.
Yeah, we dated, I want to say about like 5 to 6 years, I want to say. Like, yeah, he was like my high school sweetheart. I guess we were both young, like it wasn't the best relationship, but obviously growing up, like kind of grew up together. So,
I hate when people say
yeah.
that. I feel like siblings.
It's just silly.
I started dating my man at the same age, and like people say like, oh, you guys grew up together. I'm just like, don't say that. Don't say that.
But kind of like you kind of
Yeah,
like develop,
it's true.
certain stages, stuff like that. But I guess I want to say that relationship taught me so many things. Like now as 23 years old compared to when I was like 14, like, oh yeah, like nah, I'm never making those mistakes again. Like, no way. Yeah.
There's so much
um,
to
yeah,
learn.
it's like I want to say the relationship was good. I mean, definitely it was. I guess it wasn't as difficult trying to find comfort, I want to say, or like feel comfortable with his family and within his culture because they're so welcoming. Like, like I guess Dominican people are so like energetic and like outgoing and like, yeah, it's a fun time. And then my family's like so laid back and chill and like, it's just going through a whole different environment was so much fun to me. And there was
I
so
have to ask, what was the Spanish like? Because all like Hispanics have such different dialects
yeah,
that like I feel like I just want to know what was that like? Like, did you understand certain things? Because I know again, like, there's different words for certain things.
right.
So what was that like?
Well, he is Dominican slash Italian. So it was like, yeah, so I met both of his like, yeah, Italian family and Dominican family. And his Dominican family, I mean, I understood them, but like better than him because he didn't even speak Spanish. It was funny, but yeah.
Oh.
But it wasn't as difficult. There were some words that obviously there was like I don't know if they're like it's just like the slang, I guess like it's just the way how one word is said, like it's different for me, like I understand it differently. But it wasn't that difficult even if I um didn't understand. I guess this kind of reminds me of the first time I had to sit, I guess, within a family gathering, and I was so anxious. Like I was so like nervous. Like what if somebody asked me something I don't understand? Like like it was just like I don't know because also like you speak like I guess Dominican people speak really really fast, and I'm just like oh my god like what if I don't understand and have to ask them to repeat themselves.
Oh, that's so embarrassing. Asking
Yeah,
someone to repeat themselves after like 3 times. Like,
yeah. I'm like
I can't.
like stare at them like what? No, but fortunately like his family was so sweet. They're so loving and but um I guess just being within the Hispanic culture, like you kind of just understand like those there's no boundaries. I went boundaries like borders. Like there's no borders when you walk into a Hispanic household because you kind of like still understand each other. Obviously there's respect and like there's knowledge behind like we're both Hispanic. We both have our own traditions. Like we acknowledge that and we kind of know that. But going back to like to a white household and stuff like that, or like being invited to that kind of environment, you're kind of like, oh, like, what's right and what's not right. Like I don't feel it's out of my comfort zone.
If you're in like a regular like Latino house, you're just like, oh, like anything. It could be anything. They're gonna ask you questions if you're silent. But
Yeah.
like, I'm sure if it's like Super Bowl Sunday, they are not gonna ask you one question.
They don't care about you.
They're not gonna ask you anything.
No.
Like, is he very close with his Italian side? Like,
Um,
it's just like you had to see them multiple times, and did you ever get comfortable?
yeah, we did. It was actually nice. Like I actually got to like experience that. Like I don't know, like the Italian side of a family, like or like Italian, like it's not that much different. I want to say, like to like the Hispanic, like our Hispanic background. Definitely a lot of family. So like they get together a lot. But yeah, I got used to it afterwards. They were really nice. Like they were all nice people. I can't really say anything bad. No.
Oh, that's really interesting. So you experienced both like a different Hispanic side and also like this kind of like white Italian.
Me and my partner right now, like we're dealing with like cultural barriers like here and there. I mean, we're both Latinas, so there's
Yeah.
comfort. There's like a certain level of comfort where like my Spanish isn't so horrible that she has to translate everything to me, but because like the dialect is different,
Ooh.
I am doing the constant, what did she say? What is that slang? What is that, like, how she framed that? And especially for me, because I was like primarily raised with my Dominican half for like 13 years, I am used to speaking very fast. I am used to like pushing out my Spanish very quickly. But, you know, living with my Mexican half for like the last like almost 8 years, I'm like slowly like learning to calm down my words, put in new words in my dialect, like really getting into like how to be more comfortable with my Spanish and speaking Spanish to them. Cause like that's a little bit of an insecurity for me, is like being not so good that I like usually don't speak. So now I'm getting comfortable with that, and it's like really cool. It's really nice. And, you know, when I don't understand something in, you know, her culture, it's like, ooh, what is that? Why do you guys, why do you guys do that? I want to know. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty nice. I just, I definitely appreciate it more than if I was like in any other relationship with any other culture, just because, you know, I wouldn't mind, like, if her mind, her spirit, her body was just like in another culture. Well, then, like, cool. I would probably be just as interested. But I think there's like a certain level of comfort that, like, she is also Latina, and we grew up in the same city, and we grew up in the same environment, and like just having that comfort of like, oh, okay, I don't have to adjust myself in a certain way. Yeah, to fit a certain like environment, if she was maybe white, or if she was like someone who was like so Americanized in like white culture, like in Florida there are no Latinos. There are no in Florida where I used to grow up, there the only Latinos I knew were my family. Were my family and my extended family, because I have a lot of cousins. So a lot of them are like Dominican Puerto Ricans. So I only knew the Dominicans I lived with and the Puerto Ricans that were my cousins. And the Puerto Ricans that was my best friend from daycare. And so like I've only ever known being within my own Latino bubble.
Yeah.
And that has been like my safe haven, because everything else is like, ooh, I couldn't imagine having to sit through Super Bowl Sunday. Like I can barely do it with my dad. I can barely do it with my dad and my stepfather. Like doing it like all the time, or like having to like maybe there are just things and quirks that are different in a white household that, you know, I don't want to have to constantly explain about my culture that we don't do, you know, like, yeah, I just don't do this thing. And I also don't want it to be like a criticism.
You know, Valentine's Day is a day when we can also celebrate friendship. Like, you don't have to be in a romantic relationship to celebrate that day. So we want to dedicate part of this episode to our dear friendships. Let's see what our guests had to say about their close friendships.
My longest friendship is with, well, now I call her my sister because it's been that long, but, you know, we've been friends since we were 3 years old. Like, and it's been really crazy. She's Puerto Rican, so I've always stayed like within my Latina bubble, just because it's like I didn't have a lot of them around me when I was living in Florida. So whenever I found one, I was like, oh my God, please don't leave my side. Don't leave me with these people. And, you know, luckily I found her when I was like 3, and we've been best friends ever since. Like, I know her family. Like, I call her mom, ma. Like, I feel weird if I don't call her ma. But the only thing about like dads is like, I don't call them like pa or none of that. It's like, oh, hey, Richie. and that's it. Hey, what's up? And they cook for me every time I go back down to Florida. Like, they never ask me for like anything. Maybe like, forgot, like wash the dishes or something like that. But I do that, and their Puerto Rican culture is like pretty amazing. Like, their food is always different than anything I would get, in my Mexican household or in my Dominican household. Like, oh, their arroz con frijoles is slamming. It is different. They call it arroz con guandule, but it is so good. I never eat beans, like unless it's like on a tostada or like a tortilla. I never eat beans, like never just salad a bean. It feels weird. So she makes it, I'm like okay with it, because she puts like chunks of steak in there, and she'll put like chicken, and it's like really mixed up in there, and I'm just like, wow, like I'm in love with this bean right here. That's amazing. And it's just great, like every Christmas there's like coquito, and it's like special brewed.
It's so nice, like, when their families, like, take you in as if, like, you were, like, one of their own. And, like, my family, like, does that with, like, I have, like, these really close, like, 3 best friends. We've been friends since middle school. So, like, my dad is, like, basically their dad. Like, they'll introduce their boyfriends to my dad before they introduce, them to their own dads. Like, it's, like, the cutest thing ever. And, like, my dad will, like, get mad, and he's like, well, who's that? And stuff like that. Like, and, like, question them and stuff, and they'll be like, they're just like, yeah, I'm more nervous with your dad than I am with my own. I'm just like, yeah, like, how do you think I feel and stuff like that. But I know, like, you've talked to me, Jalen, about your own best friend and your experience. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I actually met my best friend in high school, like freshman year, and I guess like I also kind of struggled like growing up, trying to fit in with like finding a group of people who are like Hispanic, because I was like strictly in just English classes, not really much of like Hispanic people. So it was like really hard for me to connect with anybody. But then I met, I met my best friend, and she's Muslim. She's from Pakistan, and she's such, like, I don't know how to explain it, but she is such a kind-hearted, genuine person, like, and so respectful, so mindful, so goofy. Like, it's just, I felt like I met my twin, like, literally.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, and it was so funny. And it was so funny how we met. Like, we met in our math class, and I forgot, like, I just looked over to her and I said hi to her, and we say this story all the time. Like, she tells this story. She's like, yeah, she looked over me and she said hi with this big old smile. And I just thought to myself, like, is she okay? Like, I was like, oh my God.
Do you think your friendship would have ever blossomed if you didn't, like, take that chance and just be like, hey?
Yeah, I don't think so, because she was definitely, I guess, like, going through her own things, like, growing up and everything. And like, I guess I was going through my own things too, like, and I guess we just kind of, like, started talking, and, like, she found comfort in, like, how friendly and outgoing I was, and, like, she was, like, able to bond with me. I don't think if I ever, like, reached out and said anything to her, maybe she could have, but I don't think she would. Like, knowing her how she is, like, nah, I don't think so she would. I could relate with her being, like, the only daughter, and, like, what are the expectations of being, like, a daughter of immigrants, like.
That's really nice you guys got to bond in that way, especially, like, cause, like, cultures are so different, but you find so many, like, similarities, especially, like, with migrants. Like, as immigrants, like, we came from our parents, like, or ourselves. We come from, like, these very different, like, really dense cultures, I would say. Then we come to, like, America, and, like, it's almost like a culture shock, and you have to, like, learn this new, like, kind of way of living in a sense. But then, like, between, like, us as, like, Latinos, but, like, American as well, we have to, like, have this kind of balance.
Oh, I mean, I just don't know if you guys ever feel this, but, like, with your friendships, your relationships, and when they're also from, like, immigrant families and immigrant households, like, do you guys ever feel like they are the most of their culture than you are? Like, I have a cousin, and she's like my best cousin. I don't care if any of my cousins hear this. She's my favorite cousin. Everybody else, to the back. everybody else was like, she's my favorite.
I feel that.
We're the same age, and you know, she's on my Mexican side. So when I found her, when I moved to Jersey, like I was like, wow, yes, a cousin, someone who has to love me because we are family. But you know, we actually learned to like love each other, like each other, and you know, getting to know her side of the family, it was like, oh wow. So like, I'm not even as Mexican as I thought, because she really is like, she had a quince in Mexico, like with mariachis and everything, and I was like, oh my god, and like their house feels like if I was in like back in Puebla or back in Tecuanipa, because it has like a warmth, and there's all these pictures of her side of the family, and there's all these like cute little vases full of like oil that her dad makes for bread. And I'm like, oh wow, Theo, that's so cute. Let me some bread. I'm numb. And they speak Spanish in the house like all the time. Like I rarely hear her speak English unless it's to her brother or me. You know, it's like very, very it's just very immersed in the culture in there. And sometimes like I feel like, damn, like, am I slacking? Am I slacking on
you
that?
almost feel like you're like a whitewashed version of like what you should be.
Absolutely. I feel so Americanized all the time. Especially in like my actual relationship. Like, my partner is just very like all about her culture, and I love that because it's like, yes, she's speaking Spanish all the time. My ears will remember. My ears will remember, and I will learn.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes there are like very Americanized things that, you know, split our relationship right down the middle, where I can tell like she was born here. She might as well have been born in El Salvador. Like she might as well have been born over there. She wants to go so bad. She wants to be there. Her being the eldest daughter is completely different than me being the eldest daughter here.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because it's like they really rely on her. They're like, when are you gonna get this job? When are you gonna start making this tech money? Like, when are you gonna do this? My family has been here. Like, my dad was born in Mexico, but he moved here at like 11. Same thing with my mother. Like, she's from Santo Domingo, but they moved here at 11. So they're very assimilated.
I did want to ask you guys a final question. Within the like your experience with like all these different types of relationships that you guys had, like what have they taught you? Like any like the biggest lessons that you kind of like got from these relationships? What would you say that was?
I definitely want to say that in my relationship with my partner, she has definitely taught me that like in her culture, there are things that are really important to hear and talk about, you know, that like maybe my family is like a little bit more like, you know, if you're happy, we're happy. You know, like in her culture, you know, there are things that are pretty traditional that like you must talk to the mom about your future together. You must like, you know, you must like it, you know, set your intentions about the relationship, and that might give me anxiety, but it also, you know, shows them reassurance. They need the reassurance that, like you said before, that this relationship is going to be like a structural relationship, you know, like having that importance on like having a set future and having a set plan, knowing what you guys are going to do together, and you're not just like having fun and doing whatever you want. That's really important in her culture that I never like experienced because, you know, it's a little bit different. My grandparents have been together for eons. I have never needed to have that talk with them. They're too old for that. And like in my friendship with my sister, I have learned that like family can also be kind of destructive. And it is all about you standing your ground in like what makes you feel safe in your family. Even if it's your family causing the destruction, you need to be able to feel safe to speak up and be strong in your stance and comfortability, which I will always take with me when it comes to that. You know, like I'm blessed enough to have my family that like really doesn't give me any problems, but I also still need to see that there are not all families in the Latino community especially that have the same privilege.
Oh, I really like that.
Yeah, same. That's a lot of good things that you take away from that. Like it's good to hear that. I guess like for me, well, that previous relationship, that ex I had, I guess growing up, I never really had like those set boundaries. Like even with my parents in this Hispanic household, like what's what's privacy? Like we don't have. I personally didn't have privacy. Um, like what were the limitations? What was too far, what was not, and I feel like that's something that I took away from like that relationship. Like I learned a lot from. Um, and like there's definitely limits to everything, like what are you comfortable with? Like, do they respect that? And I think that's something that, well, within my own culture, like obviously, um, all doors can't be closed. Like, like it's like, like where are you going? Like who are you going with? Like, stuff like that. And it's just, in that relationship, it just seemed too normal for me. But then out of it, like now that I look at it from a third perspective, like no, like it shouldn't have been that way, stuff like that. So yeah, definitely like boundaries in itself. And I feel like I definitely improved a lot from that. So, but yeah, I think that's the main takeaway I got from that. It took years, like it definitely took years to like understand um, like what it actually means to be in a relationship. Like, what does it mean to you? Like, and how far are you willing to take it? Like, is it serious or is it not? Like,
I really like what you guys both said in the sense that, like, you two, Ali, were like, you have to pass everything by, like, your parents. Like, you weren't used to that culture, but, like, when me and my boyfriend, I guess when my family saw that, like, he wasn't going anywhere, they, like, I would start getting those questions where, like, oh, like, you guys have to come talk to us. Like, that we're, like, juntarse. Like, when you guys, like, I don't even know how to describe this in English. Like, and I want to so bad, but like, I don't know, like, how to describe it, but like, you're like a step below, like, married, but you're like heading there. Like, you're officially like kind of like heading that way.
Wow,
So
like
like,
pre-engaged to be engaged.
yeah, so like almost like that promise. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like even like when I was talked to like, oh, like you have to talk to us about that, I'm just like, why? Like I thought that was so weird. I'm like, why are you all up in my business? I'm like, I was a sassy ass kid. Like
You trying to
I
sell me?
still am.
Like, were you trying to give him a chicken and a cow? What's up?
No. Yeah, so I'm like, why? I just thought it was so weird, but like at the same time, like I knew it was coming because I saw it. Like my sister, the same thing. She dated her husband since she was 15. So again, like you see these things and it's cycle, and it's not necessarily bad by any means, but some like sometimes you do wish you had more experience outside of that, which I could say luckily because I think it was the best for our relationship, but like even like with myself, like we were on and off for like a couple years there. So I did experience what it was like to be single at a younger age. But thankfully we're on a good track and we have been for the past couple years. But just taking away those lessons and living these different experiences is really key to like growing up in a sense and like knowing what you want in a future relationship. And like you guys said, like standing your ground is very important, not only in your own relationship but like with your family, and setting those boundaries between your relationship and your family, because like again, like some Hispanics don't have those boundaries, so you have to really stand your ground at that end. It's not easy, but it's definitely okay. That's it for today's episode. I want to give a very special thank you to my guests today. You guys were awesome, and I can't wait for everyone to hear about your guys' experiences, and hopefully somebody out there can relate. Please stay tuned for our resource at the end of every episode like we always do, and please have a very safe and love-filled Valentine's Day, whether it be with your friends, your family, loved ones, significant others. We'll see you guys next time. For this episode's resource, we are going to stick to the theme. This resource comes from the New Directions shelter that is actually based in Mount Vernon, Ohio. They have some tips and red flags to look out for in abusive relationships directly on their website, so this is directly coming from them, and here are a couple. Now, before I do read these, please keep in mind that these red flags can not only be present in your romantic relationships, but they can also be present in your friendships, your platonic relationships. So please pay attention and keep your eyes open when it comes to these different types of relationships that you will come across eventually. First red flag is jealousy. This can actually look like somebody who constantly wants to be around you, or even checks your car mileage, constantly accuses you of cheating. Controlling behavior, such as this person acting like you do not have the capability of making good and smart decisions on your own. Constantly questioning what you're doing, who you're with, what you're wearing when you went out. This person becomes very angry when you're ever late to anything. Another major red flag is isolation, and this one is important because this might be happening and you might not even be aware of it. This can look like this person puts down everybody that you know. They make it seem like your family is too controlling or you're too dependent on them, and they try to cut you off all of your resources. Breaking or striking any objects and any type of force during an argument, which involves throwing things, punching things, breaking things, punching the wall, and of course the number one red flag in abusive relationships is the physical abuse and physically hurting you and putting your life in danger. This could also be the person restraining you, pushing you, or even shoving you. And when these things happen, this person might make it look like it's no big deal and that this won't happen again until it does. If this is happening to you or someone you know, please reach out to someone you can trust or call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 800-799-7233. Again, that is 800-799-7233. Please do not stay silent, as that is exactly what this person wants to do. They want to make you feel small, as if you're not capable of moving forward or doing anything without them. Please know that you are not alone, as cliche as that sounds. There are so many resources out there. Please use them. And with that being said, thank you so much to everybody that is listening to our episodes and tuning in to Migrants with Heartbreaks now for today's special Valentine's Day episode. Normally, we will be Migrants with Migraines. Again, have a happy Valentine's Day and hug your loved ones. Thank you guys so much.